Hey guys, this is Ben from Road to VR, and we're here at CES 2015 at Intel's booth. And at Intel's booth, we have AltspaceVR, who is working on a really cool social VR platform. And we have CEO Eric Romo here from AltspaceVR, who's going to tell us more about it. So Eric, what are you showing here at CES at the Intel booth?
Yeah, so you said it perfectly. We're showing social virtual reality, and so there's a couple of things that we're highlighting about our product. I think the first thing to note is we're doing a 2-minute demo, and when we did our closed beta test a couple of months ago, our average user time was about an hour each time they used it. So it's a little snapshot of our product. So what we're in particular showing off is, one thing is nonverbal communication. So you noticed this in the product, you've seen it. We map the person's head position as they move their head around perfectly onto their avatar in a virtual space, and that gives you an awful lot of nonverbal communication. We did a really cool presentation a few weeks ago where we showed a group of people without audio what a bunch of avatars in a room interacting, and they were able to pick out, without me saying anything, hey, that person's laughing, that person must be talking because that other person is nodding. So that nonverbal communication just from head position is really powerful. But the second thing we're showing off is we have now the Intel RealSense camera that we've integrated into our product, so the ability to track your hands in a virtual space. So this gives you the ability more nonverbal communication. I can talk with my hands, I can wave, I can do virtual fist bumps, and then at the end we have a little virtual volleyball game that we added in just for the show.
Yeah, that nonverbal communication for me is something that I find to be one of the most interesting parts about this because, you know, I don't know, you always hear that off-quoted statistic, nonverbal body language is, I don't know, 50% of communication.
Right, exactly.
Whatever it is, it's important. That's what we know. And yeah, when you're in there, you can see people that they look over at you. You know that they're listening to you. It's not like failing to bring up a good example, but it's not like other methods where you may just be standing, you're just these static avatars, right. And you're like, hi Eric, how are you? And you're just standing like this, yeah, hi Ben.
I'm really good, Ben, nice to see you.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we're talking like robots because we're trying to explain to the viewer that the body language makes you seem like a robot, but in this, it's just the head tracking on the DK2, right. and with just that, even though the avatars aren't realistic, you get what people are doing, right? How do you? Are you guys going to expand more on that beyond just the head?
Absolutely, as we can. You know, so as peripherals and as data supports it, I think that's where we'll go. And it's amazing that every little piece you add adds to that immersion. So as you add hands, you're even more there. And I don't know if you noticed anybody doing this, but the great thing is sometimes people put out their hands and then they lean in with the DK2 positional tracking. They can see their hand that way, and that I think it just clicks for them. Then they're there. Then they're a part of that experience. And so every piece we can add would be great. And then we're looking for more and more data as time goes on.
Now, do you see supporting a plurality of devices like this, like Intel's RealSense, or just kind of the one that you think is best?
I mean, absolutely. We want to work with a lot of different data sources here. I think we're so early days as far as input and interaction in virtual reality that we want to see what's going to be the best way to interact with other people, what's going to be the best way to capture nonverbal communication. And there's so many amazing things that are going to be integrated soon. You know, things like eye tracking and things like maybe facial tracking, right? Facial recognition. Things like the ability to track more of my body and my torso, or maybe move around a virtual space. I mean, each one of these steps adds to that richness of the communication they have between people. So we focus really on that core communication, on the nonverbal part of that, and so anything we can add is only going to be heightened.
So another big aspect of AltspaceVR is you guys actually have this web browser built in, which is pretty full. The idea is to have it be fully featured, right? Yep. You're still on the way. Have you made any improvements from the last time that we looked at it in terms of functionality and the screen sharing stuff?
Yeah, you absolutely see some of that next time we do a closed beta test. One of the big things, one of the pieces of feedback we got, which we already sort of knew, but we made sure to address it for the next rep, is just the readability of the screens. So there's some stuff that we added in to allow us to be able to zoom those screens so that people can see the text that you're reading, see what you're reading a little bit more fidelity. I think it's amazing how people kind of jump to conclusions about VR, about 1080p headsets, about, oh, I'm not going to be able to read text on there. But if you do it right, then you can read that text. In one of the demos we did a few weeks ago with the new builds, I was in it for about 6.5 hours, and I was chatting on, we use Slack, which is our kind of IM client. I was chatting for 6.5 hours with other people and those virtual web browsers. Totally fine, use my keyboard, totally fine. Once it clicks and once you get used to it, you're great there. And so I think those changes you'll definitely see in the build and make those personal web browsers a lot more readable.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, we know that the resolution on these headsets is going up. Have you, and Gear VR is kind of the first 1440 1440p display that you can get your hands on as just a consumer. Have you guys had a chance to try AltspaceVR with a screen of that resolution to see how it improves the readability?
Yeah, we've done some tests, obviously. I mean, that's something that we're clearly working on. We're focused on getting on that client. And so, I mean, the screen is beautiful. You know, there's just no debating it. And so we can't wait to be on the 1440p. And I think, looking at text and looking at web browsers, there's only more you're going to be able to do with that. And I think adding to that the shared experience of Altspace, the ability to watch things together and view things together, that's going to heighten it as well, right? It's one thing to watch it on 1080p display when you're seeing a screen that's gigantic movie theater size screen. It's another one. Now it's a 1440p display. It's going to be even better.
So there's some kind of weird licensing. I think this is untrodden ground in terms of I want to have my friend come over from California into my Altspace, and I want to watch Netflix with him.
Yeah.
But is that, you would think Netflix would say, no, you can't have people online sharing the same Netflix environment, but I could equally invite a neighbor over to my house to sit on the couch next to me. So there's not necessarily a difference there when you really look at the two side by side. Are you guys thinking about those kinds of challenges and thinking about ways to solve them?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's on our mind. And I think that the thing that we do that I think mitigates a lot of that is that from each individual user's perspective, you're opening your own web browser. And when you look at that gigantic public display, it's your web browser running on your computer, on your client. And so for you to see Netflix there, you have to be logged into Netflix on your account. And so that means that from the content provider's perspective, they can feel comfortable that every different person is going to be logged in separately on those accounts. So from a product perspective, though, the challenge that creates is our users might not necessarily know that, right? So if I go into a room where a Netflix movie is playing and I'm not a Netflix customer, we don't want them to have to be disappointed that they then can't see the movie. So we have to find ways to make that clear and make that not stressful for the user.
And so we talked a little bit about the nonverbal communication, and social is this accessible application that you don't need to be a gamer, you just need to be able to know how to talk and move like a human, and everybody knows how to do that. So that means it's very accessible, but a lot of what we've seen so far is you need a powerful gaming rig to run desktop VR. What you're showing here is Altspace running on integrated Intel hardware. Is that something, are you going to look for that low level for entry when you guys hit an eventual release?
We think it's super important. We think it's important to play to a denominator that lots of people have. I think, if you look at the population of folks that have a $3,000 gaming rig on their desk, you've got one, I've got one, Bruce has one, but the rest of a lot of the world does not. And so we want to make sure that we can optimize our software to run on those lower end PCs, and I think Gear VR speaks to a lot of that too, right? So the same methods that you go through to optimize for Gear, you'll optimize for those lower ends. We do, most of the times when we go out and do demos, we run them on MacBooks. We think that highlights the fact that a lot of demos don't even run on Mac, and so we think it's important to show that. But we absolutely want to be running on laptops, want to be running on computers that people have every day, and not necessarily requiring them to go out and buy a big piece of hardware.
Great, and so when and how can people see Altspace for themselves if they have a DK2?
Yeah, so sign up for the closed beta. So we'll be letting pretty much everybody on the list in the next couple of months, and so that'll be exciting. So altvr.com is the place to sign up for the beta and get on that list, and we hope to see them there soon.
Great, thank you so much, Eric. Appreciate it.